Okay. All right, gentlemen, let's go. Where is everybody? Is that door open also?
No.
Okay. All right, we have a few points that we have to cover. We have to close up over here. So pick it up on page 822.
822.
Okay. So going back, we have a few things that we skipped over. We have the what do you call it? If you look at 822, so 6 lines from the top. Okay. V'yomer Moshe el Korach shimuna b'nei Levi. So this pasuk itself seems a little bit, what do you call it? A little something in the pasuk is awkward. V'yomer Moshe el Korach. Moshe says to Korach, shimuna b'nei Levi. Listen, sons of Levi. You don't hear a problem with that? You don't hear a problem? Everybody should have a chumash. Everybody take a chumash. There are plenty of chumashim. Everybody should have a chumash, page 822. Sit down, have a chumash, and try to follow along. You don't hear a problem there? Vayomer Moshe el Korach shimuna b'nei Levi. Moshe says to Korach, listen, tribe of Levi.
He's himself a Levi?
He's a Levi. What else? Who are you talking to? You talking to Korach or are you talking to Levi? B'nei Levi. It says Vayomer Moshe el Korach says to Korach, listen, b'nei Levi. Now, who are you talking to? You're talking to Korach or you're talking to the B'nai Levi?
The B'nai Levi joined Korach's?
They were there with him, for sure. But the question is, so then it should say, Vayomer Moshe el B'nai Levi or Vayomer Moshe el Korach. And Shimuna Korach. Why? So it could be like, Moshe say, he's speaking to Korach, he says, pay attention, listen up, everybody.
Is it because, like, sometimes you're talking to a group, but you really are trying to get one person's attention?
So it could very well be that Moshe Rabbeinu feels, Korach, what's hurting Korach here? Korach feels he's not getting the honor and the prestige he deserves. So he wants to show, I'm addressing Korach in front of the entire B'nai Levi. See, you're important. See, I got you in front of the B'nai Levi here. Then Moshe does something which is very interesting, and it's a mistake a lot of people make, and Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't make this mistake. So Moshe says, Hama'at mikem, is it enough? Ki hivdil elokei Yisrael eschem yadas Yisrael, lahakri v'eschem elav. Is it not enough that Hashem has brought you closer than the other tribes? Lavod es avodas mishkan Hashem lamod lifnei idol l'shorsam. Is it enough that Hashem is, look what Hashem has given you. It happens often in life that somebody has got something and somebody else is jealous. Now Moshe Rabbeinu understands that these people, they want some prestige, they want some honor. And sometimes what people do is, so Moshe Rabbeinu would say, what, you think honor means anything? And people are like hearing that. It's easy to you to say because you've got the honor. The guy say, wow, you got all that money? Wow, I can't believe it. Yeah, listen, money isn't what it's cracked up to be. Oh, give me a break. So give me the money, then we'll see if it's cracked up, what it's cracked up to be. Nobody likes to hear from somebody who's got it that it isn't that great. Because if it wasn't that great, then you'd give it up. Wow, you really got a Lamborghini? Yeah, it's all hype. It's all hype, man. Don't worry about it. It's all hype. Is that right? Do you mind if I scratch that? You scratch it, put a couple of scratches on your hype? No. Then you go berserk. So don't give me the hype business. What does Moshe Rabbeinu do? He doesn't say to them, honor, learn some musar, and be humble. He doesn't say that. What does Moshe Rabbeinu say? You have honor. You also have honor. You want honor, but you've got honor already. And he doesn't downplay the concept. Because downplaying the concept is distasteful. He doesn't downplay the concept. He says you yourselves have honor, number one. Number two, Moshe Rabbeinu, he's saying a message here, especially when it comes to honor. If a person isn't happy with the honor that they have right now, then the next level of honor is not going to make you happy either. People who have honor and they crave honor, they're never going to be satisfied by it. Honor will never satisfy them because at every level you're looking for more honor. I remember when Ehud Olmert was the mayor of Yerushalayim. He got elected largely because of the religious vote, because the previous mayor was a very difficult person, very anti-religious, and then the religious threw their support behind Olmert, and he became the mayor, and he spoke here at Ohr Somayach. He was like the mayor of Yerushalayim. He came in, and he spoke. This was shortly after he was elected. Gentlemen, can I ask you not to eat, if possible, not to eat during the shir, because it's not. The Rambam writes that one shouldn't eat when they're learning Torah. One should be focused. Finish what you got now, but in general, drinking is one thing, but to eat when one's learning, there's a certain element of.
What does the Rambam say?
The Rambam says one doesn't learn Torah while eating and drinking and kind of in a leisurely manner. I understand here it's different. Here it's different because you're in a long morning and you're grabbing something to eat. There's not a problem, but not during the shir itself. It's a little distracting, and it's a little, what do you call it? I'll tell you what it reminds me of, like a college course. In college, everybody sits there doing whatever they want when they're what do you call it? They're in class. You do whatever you kitzel around. And Torah has to be a certain focus, Kovid Rosh, especially. But it's just a thing. But it's one thing to drink or you grab something if you're hungry. You're going to grab something real quick. But to make a ceremony out of it is what do you call it? Whatever the case is. So Olmert was here, and he had just been elected after he had just been elected. I think he was mayor maybe 2-3 months, and it was an unexpected victory. So he came in, he spoke in this room, and I remember he came in, he spoke, he was very, 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 very charismatic, very entertaining. His opening words, he looked around the room, and also technology, gentlemen. There should be no technology when you're learning Torah. That's the most disrespectful thing for the Torah. You're learning Torah or not learning Torah, but right now we're learning. That's what we're doing. The 5 minutes without the technology per people will maybe survive. I'm not sure. Rabbi Orlovsky said that they did an experiment where there were a group of teenagers and they wouldn't let them use their technology for 24 hours, and they showed the same symptoms as heroin withdrawal. How do you like that? Huh? Shabbos. There are people who keep. Unfortunately, there are people who do what's called half Shabbos. From kids who keep half Shabbos. They keep Shabbos except for texting. They can't stay away. They can't stay away. So, okay, anyway, so Olmert came here, and the opening line, he walked in, he was standing right where I'm sitting. He takes a look at the room full of people. The room was packed. He takes a look at a room full of people, goes, I am the mayor of Yerushalayim. That was it. Now, we knew that. That's why he was invited here. And he was clearly enjoying it. He was clearly still buzzed up from having been elected, and he's the mayor of Yerushalayim. Okay. There was a question and answer session right towards the end. And he was very entertaining. He was very, very good speaker. And right towards the end, the last question, somebody said to him, why doesn't the country do something on the Golan Heights? And I remember his answer, he goes, this is da-da-da-da-da-da. He goes, but I really can't, I'm not responsible for what their policy is because I'm not the prime minister yet. And when he said that, we all started laughing, but that's when the coin dropped. As soon as he said, this was only a stepping stone. Now, to be an honor, the mayor of Yerushalayim is pretty. It's a pretty big honor. Blagojevich, I don't know if that's how his name is, the governor of Illinois who ended up in jail. So, like 2 other previous governors. What was his name? How do you pronounce? Is I'm pronouncing it right? Blagojevich. So he was the guy when Obama became elected, so that Senate seat opened up, and the governor appoints the next guy as a senator. And so they had him on tape saying to somebody, this one is too good to just give away. Yeah, he got in trouble. Listen, he ended up in jail. But one of the things he said, he was on a phone conversation with somebody, and he said to him, how long do you expect me to stay stuck in this job? Now, I want to tell you something. To be a governor is not being a truck driver. A governor lives in a mansion, And arguably, a governor in a certain way has more power than the president over his area of responsibility. President's got to deal with Congress, or a governor. He's got city, he's got state government, but he's a very powerful person in a very powerful position. And he was quoted as saying to his friend, "How long do you expect me to stay stuck in this job?" There are 50 of them across the country. That's it. It's a good job. I would be governor if I could get elected. It's a good job. Right, or at least king, right? It's a good job. A person who's looking for Moshe Rabbeinu is saying to the Leviim, you have honor. If that honor doesn't do it for you, more honor is not going to help you. Right? It's not going to help you. Okay, number one. Then take a look at pasuk. Now, there's another issue here, and this is the biggest irony of all. How did Aharon HaKohen? Korach wants to be the Kohen Gadol. What was Aharon HaKohen's qualification to become Kohen Gadol? How did he become Kohen Gadol? What does it say? It says when Moshe Rabbeinu was concerned, when Hashem came to Moshe Rabbeinu and said, you're going to bring the Jewish people out of Egypt. What was Moshe Rabbeinu's reaction? Please Hashem, I don't want to do it. Take my brother. What does that mean?
That he couldn't talk.
No, Moshe Rabbeinu spoke to God. He's right. Among other things, he said that I'm kvad peh. I won't be able to speak to Paro. You better. I wish Rabbi Schiller would have been here. I told her that we're having a problem with this thing. So Moshe Rabbeinu says to God, please send my brother. And Moshe Rabbeinu is concerned. He's the younger brother. Aaron's older. Aaron was the leader of the people in Egypt all those years Moshe wasn't there. So he's not only taking a higher position than his brother, he's taking his brother's position. And he says, I can't do that. Send my brother. And Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, you have nothing to worry about. Viracha, when he comes to greet you, Viracha v'samach b'libo. He'll see you and he'll rejoice in his heart. He'll see you and he'll rejoice in his heart. So the Gemara says that because Aharon was happy for Moshe Rabbeinu, just close the door when you go out, Alicia, okay? Because Aharon was happy for Moshe Rabbeinu, he was happy in his heart. He merited to wear the choshen, the chest plate that goes over the heart. That's what the Gemara says. And maybe somebody just give him a chumash. They need chumash back there. They don't have chumash. There should be on the table. There should be plenty of chumash in there. Page 822. So why did Aharon? So what happens as a result? Aharon becomes the Kohen Gadol because he's happy in his heart for Moshe Rabbeinu. That means, what was his qualification to become the Kohen Gadol? Because he wasn't jealous. So Korach, it's the sort of thing. If you want it, as soon as you want it, that means that you're disqualified. That's the honor. If Korach, that's the irony. If Korach is jealous of Aharon, you by definition can't be the Kohen Gadol. Because to be the Kohen Gadol, you have to not be jealous. You understand? So sometimes in life, it's like saying to a kid, when a grandson walks into the house, I tease him a little bit. I say, Zadie, can I have something? Can I have a treat? I said, I'll only give you if you don't ask for one. Then the kid just looks at you like this. I'm not asking. I'm not asking. You understand? You're torturing him. You're torturing him. You're by definition disqualified. I had a friend, an Israeli guy, was in the army, and he told me that, like in the Israeli Air Force, you're talking about the top of the top of the line. So he told me that in the Air Force, they do tests. They have to, besides your physical capabilities, you have to have a personality, and you have to have certain psychological tests. And one of the things they do is they're constantly testing these guys. I guess when you're flying an F-35, your reactions have to be pretty quick and pretty accurate. Right? Oh, darn it! I just hit Syria. I was aiming for Iran. I can't make mistakes like that. So you have to be able to be accurate and quick and everything else. So he told me, for example, this is just an example, where a guy taps a guy on the shoulder, and tap a guy, said, the commander wants to speak to you in the office. So the guy walks into the office, and the commander says to him, you didn't close the door. If you turn around to check, you're not going to be flying an F-35. You can't be unsure if you close the door. If you say, sir, I closed the door, you also won't fly an F-35, because that's not how you talk to a commanding officer. There's only one correct response, which is, sir, I closed the door, but if you want me to, I'll go back and check it. And it's not, it's not like, oh, you blew it, you said you closed the door. Oh, no, next time I'll give the right answer. No, it's not something you study for. You're checking a reaction. And if you don't have that reaction, then you're not qualified. You're just not, you are by definition, and there's nothing you could do, for it. You are simply not qualified. I am not allowed to play in the WNBA. Right? You cannot play in the women's and professional basketball because you are not a woman. You are by definition not qualified. And therefore, Korach, by definition, isn't qualified because he's jealous. How do you like that for an irony? But I'm not jealous, but I want to be the Kohen going, you're jealous. Yes, you are. And that's why it also says, the Gemara says, if you pursue, somebody who pursues honor, honor flees from him. When you chase after honor, honor runs away from you. So now what do you do? What if you want honor? What are you supposed to do? I want a hi, come on in. Maybe somebody's hook them up with the chumash. Guys, there are plenty of chumashim on the shelf over here. So what do? The Gemara says if you want honor, you have to flee from it. If you chase after honor, honor runs away from you. If you flee from honor, honor will chase you. So this guy comes to the rabbi and he says to the rabbi, I'm fleeing from honor, but the honor still isn't chasing me. He says, yeah, that's because you keep looking back over your shoulder to see if it is. And it's only if there's certain things that you have to be genuine over here. So Korach over here, he's obviously not qualified. Now, take a look 2 lines down, 3 lines from the bottom. And this is possibly the most chutzpahdik line of all in this entire confrontation. This is one of the most chutzpahdik line of all. 3 lines from the bottom on 822. So Dasan and Aviram, Moshe Rabbeinu calls them. 4 lines from the bottom. Vayishlach Moshe likro leDasan v'Aviram b'nei Eliyav. Vayomru lo nale. They said, we will not come up. Now we said yesterday or 2 days ago, not come up means, because you're going down. You're going to get swallowed up by the earth. Okay. Well, what does it mean in the plain context? I mean, they're in the desert on flat land. Moshe Rabbeinu calls them, but they say, he summons Dasan and Aviram, and they say, lo nale, we won't come up. What do you mean we won't come up? We're all on a flat land in the desert. What does it mean we won't come up? What did Dasan and Aviram mean by that? It could be in at a deeper level, but in the plain meaning, they're responding to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, I would say in English, if I say come, if I summoned you and said we're not coming over to you, why would they say we're not coming up to you? Page 822. Page 822. Why would they say we're not coming up to you? Why is it we're not coming up? We're not coming over to you. Why we're not coming up? What does that mean? What's just in the play? What's that? Ooh, very good, very close. Dasan and Aviram suspect that they know that they're the rabble rousers here. And they know that Moshe Rabbeinu wants to figure out a way to get out of all this. Why would he be calling them? So they suspect you're going to try to bribe us. You're going to try to bribe us. You'll offer us a position to raise us up. Lo nala, we're not going for it. We're not going to let you bribe us. We're not going to take the bribe. We sense that you're calling us over, that you'll promote us to some position, and that way we'll turn around to the rest of the followers and say, okay, guys, just relax. Okay, let's just drop it. So Dasan never say, lo nala, we're not coming up. Don't worry. We're not going for your bribe. We're not going for the bribe. And then the chutzpah, 3 lines from the bottom. This the absolute brazen audacity. It's not a left that you took us out of a land of milk and honey. To put us to death in the desert. And you're going to lord over us also? I mean, you took us out of the land of honey, milk and honey. I mean, you know what Egypt was like? What they were going through? They were slaves. They couldn't wait to get out. All of a sudden, it became the land of milk and honey. All of a sudden, Egypt was just the land of milk and honey. Can you imagine somebody getting out of Afghanistan and saying, "Oh, the land of milk and honey"? What kind of land of milk and honey is it? So, in general, in the whole story over here, Korach, don't you see what's going on? You see that Moshe is the leader. How could you have gotten to this point where your entire thinking and your approach and everything, how did you get so distorted? You're so distorted. You're so out of control over here. What happened? So there's Rav Hai Gaon. Have you ever heard of Rav Hai, one of the Gaon? You've heard of Rav Sadia Gaon, Rav Hai Gaon. This is the period of the Gaonim, which is the period right before the Rishonim, like before Rashi and Tosfos. You have the Gaonim. So Rav Hai Gaon says there was once a lion who saw a fox. He decided he wants to eat this fox. The fox wasn't really into it. The lion wanted to eat the fox. And so the fox says to the lion, look over there. He sees a guy on a porch, a nice kind of portly guy sitting on a porch as a human being. He says, look at that guy. He's nice and plump. There's some good meat over there. Why don't you go eat him? You'll enjoy that meal much more. So the lion says, yeah, but I'm afraid of his prayers. I'm afraid of his prayers. His prayers are potent, and I'm afraid that the prayers are going to hurt me. So he says, don't worry, his prayers only work for 2 generations later. His prayers will protect his grandchildren. It doesn't work for him, trust me. So the lion says, you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. The lion says, okay, he starts, Lopi wants to go eat the guy, and just before he gets to the guy, there's like a trap, a hole, and he falls down into the hole. And the fox comes over and he looks down into the hole, and the lion says, hey, I thought you said his prayers aren't going to hurt me. He says, they didn't. They're going to hurt they're only going to help protect his grandchildren. So then why am I down here and you're up there? He goes, because those are his grandfather's prayers that were protecting him. He also had a grandfather. And so if I go and says, what happened to the lion? I mean, if his prayers are going to protect us, why didn't you anticipate that he had a grandfather who once prayed for him? The answer is that when you're blinded by passion and you're blinded by desire, you don't the consequences. You're blind. You don't see the consequences. They ask, Chava eats the fruit. She takes a bite of the fruit and then she gives it to her husband. The original sin. She takes a bite, and after she takes a bite, she calls her husband. Oh no, dinner is served. Have some of the fruit. Right? Now the question is, why did she call him over? So Rashi says in Bereshit, maybe we could turn on the air again. It's really not, Dovid. It's really uncomfortable. But I'd rather the noise than the suffocation. Thank you, Rabbi. So Rashi says in Bereshit, why did she took a bite of the fruit, and then Rashi says she gave it to her husband because she was worried she would die and he would continue to live. Rashi says that. I understand why was now she's worried she's going to die. Why wasn't she worried she was going to die before she ate the fruit? How come all of a sudden? What changed? How did all of a sudden now she's worried? And you weren't worried before. All of a sudden now you're what if I die? What if the snake was wrong? What if I am going to die? Why now? So they tell the story. There's this anti-Semite club, a bunch of anti-Semites, and there's Igor and there's Ivan. And Ivan starts bragging that he has a Jew living on his property who could predict the future. Now, Igor can't stand the idea that anybody has anything he doesn't have. And he's, one of the feudal lords, and he's got this Jew living on his property, and Ivan says, I got a Jew living by me who could predict the future. And Igor says, nobody can predict the future. He says, no, I'm telling you, my Jew could. He says, okay, next week at the meeting, you bring your Jew. They have their weekly meeting, you bring the Jew here. So Ivan goes home and he says, okay, Yankel, you're coming with me to the meeting. Now this is not good. He walks into the tent, everybody with cones on their heads, and the Jew walks in, their name isn't Cohen. The Jew's name is Cohen. right? And so the Jew walks in, everybody's guys, they got the anti-Semites club. As soon as he walks in, this guy, this Igor, he looks at him and says, "Hey, you Jew, get up over here." It's a big platform. He calls the Jew up to the platform. And he says, "I heard my friend here said that you can predict the future. I claim nobody can predict the future." Move over a little bit. Move over to the other side. I claim nobody can predict the future. Right? Says, "I'm going to ask you a question." Right? If you can predict the future, I want to know, what day are you going to die? Now, Igor has a plan. If the Jew says he's going to die anytime in the future, he's going to pull out his gun, he's going to say, "Wrong," boom, kill him on the spot. And if he says, "I'm going to die today," he's going to wait till sunset and say, "Wrong," and kill him at sunset. So the Jew's looking, and he says, "Tell me again, what day are you going to die?" And he's already fingering the gun. And the Jew goes, "What day am I going to die? What day am I going to die? I'm going to die on the same day you die." So he starts reaching for the gun, and all of a sudden he stops. And everybody's going, "What happened, Igor? What happened?" "Buck, buck, 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 chicken Igor. What happened, Igor?" And he goes, "Well, let's consider this now. What happened? Now, what if, in that rare event, what if he could tell the future? You know, I don't know if I want to kill him right now. What if he could tell the future? I understand. A minute ago, you were sure he can't tell the future. And now, all of a sudden, now you're concerned. What happened? What changed?" Only one thing changed. Your own personal interest changed. You became you're personally connected. Now you get nervous when you're personally connected. You're blinded by either your ego, your desire, whatever it is. And that's what happens. How could you call Egypt a land of milk and honey? How could you be chasing to become the Kohen Gadol? You've got a personal bias over here, and the personal bias is what blinds you. Okay. Now, take a look at, skip all the way to, we got a few more things to do here. Skip to Pasuk 29. We did all this yesterday, but just a few more points. Skip to Pasuk 29, I think. Is this where we are? Yeah. Pasuk 25. Sorry, Pasuk 25. Chaf Hey. This is on page 824. So, as they're getting closer to the contest, Moshe Rabbeinu, what does he do? Now take a look, 5 lines from the bottom, on 824. Vayakam Moshe vayelech el Dasan va'Aviram. Moshe goes to Dasan and Aviram now. Vayelchu acharav ziknei, so the elders follow Moshe. Anything troubling you about this? Anything curious about this?
Can you say that again?
It says Vayakam Moshe vayelech el Dasan. Moshe goes to Dasan and Aviram. Anything curious about this? Vayelchu acharav ziknei, so the elders follow him. Something should be curious about something here. What happened previously? What happened previously in Pasuk Yud Gimel? Moshe summoned them, and they didn't come. Now Moshe goes to them. Why not either summon them again or go to them originally? Why does Moshe go to them now, whereas earlier he had tried summoning them and they said, "No, we're not willing to come to you"? Well, you're the problem here. You're the problem. What changed that now he's going to them? So there's a halacha. It's a very interesting halacha. The leader of a community has to maintain a certain level of dignity. For example, the Rav of a community is not allowed to be seen doing manual labor in front of the rest of the community. The Rav of the community is not allowed to take the garbage from his house. He's not allowed to do things that would reduce the position, not himself, his position. He has to take, like they say, don't take yourself too seriously, but take the position seriously. And as the Rav of the community, he can't have himself reduced because he's got to maintain an authority over the community. I remember the Rav in my community, who is one of the most humble people you'll ever meet. Yet, on Shabbos afternoon, he would give a shir. He gave like a halacha shir right before mincha on Shabbos afternoon. He would give a halacha shir, and somebody would bring his chair. He has, the rabbinic chair. Somebody would bring it over into the back room, and he would sit on that chair for the shir. And then he would go to his seat for mincha. And every once in a while, somebody might have forgotten to, it fell through the cracks. Nobody brought it. He would never bring the chair himself until somebody would bring it for him. Now, I know the man. He has no personal interest in prestige, and he'd be glad to pick up his own chair, and he's capable of doing it. But the halacha says he's not allowed to. He's not allowed to be seen picking up a chair in front of the community in the shul. So he doesn't do it. When Moshe Rabbeinu, the first time he summons Dasan and Aviram, he's summoning them. He's the leader of the Jewish people. You can't go to the people. And Moshe Rabbeinu is the most humble person. Probably killed him to do that. But he has to maintain the position. I'm the leader. They are summoned by me. I have summoned them because that's the halakha. They have to come to me. At the point that they reject it, and things are spiraling out of control, and now they're on the verge of death, then what situation are we in? Now we're in a situation what's called pikuach nefesh. Their life is on the line right now. We're at the fourth down in inches. Life is on. At that point, the halacha is pikuach nefesh supersedes all the mitzvahs except for the 3. So Moshe Rabbeinu now he's going to compromise his honor for the sake of trying to save their lives. So Moshe Rabbeinu goes to them because it's pikuach nefesh. So Moshe Rabbeinu, there's no choice now. At this point, Moshe Rabbeinu has to take the initiative and go to them, even though under normal circumstances he wouldn't be doing that, because now it's pikuach nefesh. The idea of pikuach nefesh, when it's life-threatening, you're allowed to break Shabbos for life-threatening circumstances. If somebody's, you have to break Shabbos. So there was a story about this guy, back in the 20s, they came to America, and if you didn't work on Shabbos, you got fired from your job. You don't come in on Saturday, don't bother coming in on Monday, type of thing. So there was this Jew who was very loyal to it. He kept getting fired, and eventually he was starting to break. The family didn't have any money, he didn't have a job. So one day he says to his wife, listen, Miriam, tomorrow I'm going to work. After shul, I got to go to work. I know it's Shabbos, but she says, you're not going to work. He said, it's pikuach nefesh, I have to go to work. We need money. So his wife says, you're not going to work. He says, I am going to work, and I don't want to hear another word about it. Okay, Shabbos day, he gets up in the morning, and he's going to go to work. He can't find his clothes. His wife hid his clothing. So he says, where's my clothing? He said, what do you need it for? He says, I want to go to work. He says, why are you going to work? He says, well, it's pikuach nefesh. It's life-threatening. We're in a life-threatening situation. She goes, if it's life-threatening, you'd be wearing your pajamas. You're not willing to wear your pajamas, then it's not life-threatening. You didn't go to work. If there's a fire blazing in a house, you don't go looking for your clothes. You go running out in the street in your pajamas. If it's pikuach, when is the point of pikuach nefesh? Pikuach nefesh has a definition. Not just every little thing is pikuach nefesh. They say the Stipler was in the Polish army at one point when he was younger. When he was there, Stipler was he was there. They had no choice. They got drafted. He was in the Polish army. So at a certain point, they took them out for target practice on Shabbos. So the sergeant says, "Okay, Kanievsky, pick up the rifle and shoot." He says, "I'm not going to shoot." So there were a couple of Jewish guys in the platoon. So he said, "I'm not going to shoot." The other said, "Shoot, Kanievsky." He says, "I'm not going to shoot." The Jewish guy said, "It's pikuach nefesh. You better shoot." He's not going to. He says, "I'm not shooting." So the sergeant hollers at him. He storms off. He comes back with a major. Says, "Kanievsky, pick up the rifle and shoot." He says, "I'm not shooting." The other guy is saying, "It's pikuach nefesh." It's not pikuach nefesh. The major says, "Oh yeah?" He storms off, comes back with a colonel. The colonel says, "Pick up the rifle and shoot." Kanievsky He says, "I'm not shooting." So the colonel takes a gun, claps it to his head. He says, "Kanievsky, shoot, or I'm going to blow your brains out." So the Stipler turns to the guys on his side and says, "Now it's pikuach nefesh." And the way the story goes, he took the gun in his opposite hand, the rifle, one shot, and he hit the bullseye right away. So he did it with a shinui. The pikuach nefesh, there are rules for pikuach. Now, not every little thing is pikuach nefesh. Now every people use it in the vernacular. Oh, it's pikuach nefesh. It's not pikuach nefesh. You'll survive it. So Moshe Rabbeinu, at this point, it is pikuach nefesh. At this point, it is. So Moshe Rabbeinu has no choice. Okay, now take a look at pasuk 29. The next page. So first they say, okay, everybody get away. And then it says like this. Moshe Rabbeinu makes this announcement on 826, 4 lines from the top. Im kemos kol ha'adam yamusu elu. 826, 4 lines from the top. If these people die like everybody else, ufkudas kol adam yipaked alehem. How does the article translate that? The destiny of all men will be visited upon them. Lo Hashem shlachani. Now, what is this word ufkudas kol adam? So, what does a person normally do before they die? They get sick, yeah. Before they die, they get sick, or they didn't see the truck. That's true. Those are different options. But what they do is they say Shema, but they also get the family together, and they give their final instructions. They give okay, Reuven, it's getting louder again. We can turn it off. I think we can turn it off again. Yeah. Thank you.
So it wasn't
Huh?
nefesh, huh?
Yeah, it wasn't pikuach nefesh. Yeah, I guess not. Thank you, Reuven. Thank you. A person gives his pekudot. A pekudah in modern Hebrew is called an order in the army, instruction. Moshe Rabbeinu is saying if these people die a natural death where they have time to give instruction to their family, then that's not considered. Then Hashem did not send me. That's pekudas kol adam. But other meforshim say they used to bury people in some sort of a catacomb. Is it called? Is that what it's called? Catacomb? No, not silicone. Where they actually put the body in, and then they fill it with, like in the Sanhedrin caves, if you've ever been there. Yet, one of the things they do is they would then go back and check a few days later just to make sure the person is truly dead. And there have been cases like this where they put a body in a mortuary in a morgue, and then and all of a sudden, a few days later, there's some movement. And so Moshe Rabbeinu says there's not going to be this chance to go back and check on them. They're not going to if they die a natural death, but if Hashem sent me, they're not going to have this opportunity. Nobody's going to have this chance, because when they get swallowed up in the earth, then there's no second chance. Now, they get swallowed up in the earth, right? And then they start going down. Now here you have a problem, because there's a pasuk later on in Dvarim that says, "Uvnei Korach lo mesu." Korach's children did not die. What happened to them? What happened to the sons of Korach? It says they had a platform in Gehenom, and they stood on this platform, and they sang Shira. We have Tehillim from Lamatzeach Livnei Korach Mizmor. Where was that Tehillim said? That Tehillim was said in the platform in Gehenom. There was a platform for them. Now, the problem I had a problem with all this, because Gehenom is not a physical place. Gehenom is a spiritual concept. We talk about the fires of Gehenom, but it's not like a location. It's not like right next to Gary, Indiana. It's Gehenom. Maybe it is Gary, Indiana. We don't know where Gehenom. We don't know where Gehenom is. Gehenom is for the soul. What's it got to do? How do they fall into Gehenom? How do you fall into Gehenom? So, and I had this question each year when I learned this Parashat, because it says they had a platform set up for them in Gehenom, but there is no Gehenom. So there is a concept which I saw, that the fire of Gehenom is transferred into this world into a physical form. I mean, they're not literally in Gehenom. They're in the fire that came from Gehenom, but then was transferred into a physical form of a fire and heat down in the bowels of the earth. And that's where they fall down. But what's frightening here is that Korach and his followers, they fall, and they fall, and they keep on falling into lower levels of Gehenom. There's something called, the Gemara says, for certain Averas, ma'amikin lo Gehenom. They make Gehenom deeper for him. How do you make Gehenom deeper? What does that mean? That means there are different levels of suffering in Gehenom. I had a guy here once, a very funny guy. He was a Baal Tshuva, and his father was a prison corrections officer on Rikers Island. And his father used to say, he'd come up and say, I work with the lowest of the low, the lowest people in the world, then they're the prisoners also. And so his father was a corrections officer and wasn't having any, no religion whatsoever. And anything, no Yiddishkeit whatsoever. But they got along. Eventually the father retired. The father, the mother, and the mother-in-law moved to Florida. The day they got to Florida, there was a blackout in Florida, no electricity, no air conditioning for 3 days in Florida. And so he's in the dark, in the heat, with his mother-in-law fetching. And I told the guy, that's what it means that they can make Gehenom worse for you. To be in Florida without any heat in the dark is already Gehenom. That's already punishment enough. And then to have your mother-in-law's voice in the background, oi, they! That's ma'amikin lo Gehenom. And then when the air conditioning went on, his son called him from Israel, and the father picked up the phone. He said, the air conditioning went on. Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. Man, that's enough to make anybody religious. Be stuck with your mother-in-law for 3 days in the dark. He said. So I said to him, listen, to be stuck in the dark itself is horrific. And your mother, that's ma'amikla. Korach falls. They're falling. You know when they stop falling? When Shmuel's mother Chana said a prayer. Shmuel Hanavi, who was a descendant of Korach, his mother Chana said a prayer when he was born. That's when Korach and his followers got some sort of level of relief from Gehenom. But how many years later was that? How many years later was that? That's hundreds of years later. And the entire time they're falling. It's like the world's biggest roller coaster. It's for hundreds of years that they're just falling, whatever that means. So it was a bad thing. They didn't do a good thing over here. It was very, so they're falling. Now, what's interesting is the Gemara says there was one of have you ever heard of Acher? Elisha ben Avuya. He was Elisha ben Avuya, right? He was Rabbi Meir's Rebbe who went off the derech. He was the only one in the Gemara we ever find went off the derech. He got rattled because he saw something that he couldn't work it out philosophically, and he went off the derech. And eventually he died. And when he died, there was a tumult. They couldn't bring him into Gan Eden because he had sinned. They couldn't put him in Gehenom because he had learned so much Torah. Rabbi Meir said, when I die, I'll get the Rebbe into Gehenom. Why? Why would he want to do that? Because in order to get into Gan Eden, you have to go through the cleansing process. Elisha ben Avuya was in the waiting room in the dentist's office. The only thing worse than being in the dental chair is being in the waiting room in the dentist's office, smelling other people's enamel that's coming off and hearing drilling and kids crying, and you're just waiting for your turn. That's the worst thing, except for my time when I was 19 years old. I went to the dentist, and they put me in America. Here you just sit in a room with other people. In America, they actually prep you. They put you into the next room where the dentist is going to show up. So they put me into the room, and they put me on laughing gas, and then they forgot about me. It was 45 minutes. It was 45 minutes. So all of a sudden, about 45 minutes later, she opens up she opens it and goes, "Oh, you're still here." He had skipped over my room. It was wonderful. Best trip I ever had to the dentist. 45 minutes of laughing gas. My own dentist here in Israel told me that they used to go when they'd finish one of their big tests in dental school. He said that they go up to the lab and treat themselves to some laughing gas. So, but normally you're in the waiting room. That's the worst thing. You're in the waiting room. You're not even in Gehenom yet. So Rabbi Meir said, when I die, I'll get the Rebbe into Gehenom. He'll get his root canal. After that, you could Then you could go to the banquet. Imagine you're on your way to the banquet, but you got a toothache. You can't enjoy it. You got to get it taken care of. And you're sitting in the waiting room and you can't even get it done. So Rabbi Meir says, when I die, I'll get the Rebbe into Gehenom. And sure enough, Rabbi Meir died, and they saw smoke coming out of Acher's grave. Rabbi Yochanan said, well, it's no trick to get the Rebbe into Gehenom. The trick is to get him out of Gehenom. When I die, the smoke's going to stop. And sure enough, Rabbi Yochanan died and the smoke stopped. There's only one problem, gentlemen. There's only one problem. Do you know how long it was between the time Rabbi Meir died and Rabbi Yochanan died? It was hundreds of years. That means the toaster was toasting for a couple of hundreds of years there for Acher in Gehenom. Korach and his followers are falling for a long time. Until they finally there's some relief for them. The sons of Korach didn't die, because at the last second they did tshuva. At the last second they said, Moshe emes v'torah emes. So there's a platform, that's how the Gemara put there was a platform for them in Gehenom, and on that platform they said the Tehillim. Okay, we'll see more tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem.